And so the play, by the way, before we jump into this, the play that I'm going to recommend at the end of this, I want to buy call options in two stocks going into earnings. Diageo, DEO, which is setting up for a technical breakout over here, and Brown-Forman, which is BF/B. It's a slash B. We're buying class B shares, okay? So BF, B as in boy, F as in Frank, slash B as in boy. BF/B. Sometimes in your platform, in your broker, it might be BF.B. All right, so .B or /B doesn't matter. Basically, the first play is going to be Diageo. I think Diageo breaks out and makes a move higher. Makes a move higher. So, but let's go through a couple things. There's an association out there called the National Alcoholic Beverage Association, National Alcoholic Beverage Control Association, NABCA. They put out the industry trends in the channel checks, basically in the control states. You know, this is a monthly report that comes out. You can go to NABCA website and you can get it from there. It's a nonprofit organization. Everything is available right for free on the internet, or you can just look at basically what I brought over here, and I'll tell you what's in this report. All right. But according to the channel checks provided by this association, NABCA, the total spirits volume in the control states, which represents about 20 to 25% of the entire industry, grew by 4.4% in March, which is an acceleration from 2.3% in the prior 12 months, in the trailing 12 months. So trailing 12 months is 2.3%, but March was extremely strong, growing at 4.4%. That's almost double the rate of what we saw in the prior 12 months. Maybe more people are drinking alcohol in the month of March. Maybe it was the March Madness, everybody watching basketball. I don't know, but there was a huge uptick. It may also be possible that it had to do with the Easter shift. You know, it may have caused some of that too. Maybe it also has to do with the tax refunds, because they also shifted a little bit year over year. The timing was a little bit off. Okay. But nevertheless, it was very, very strong. Not only the volumes were very strong in March, but the reported price over mix, which is basically the blended view of price and mix together, was also improved, sequentially improved to 2.2% versus TTM trailing 12 months growth of 2%. Of this, the biggest category killer, the fastest growth, was seen in Irish whiskey. Irish whiskey was up 20% in the month of March in America. Now, this shouldn't be surprising. It happens all the time in March because of the St. Patty's Day. But we're talking year-over-year comparison. We're not talking sequential improvement. I mean, so it may sound easy to say, yes, Irish whiskey should be doing it because we had St. Patty's Day in March. But again, we're not talking February versus March. This is not a sequential comparison we're doing. We're talking about year-over-year comparison. We're talking March 2016 to March 2017. And that growth was 20% in whiskey, 11% in tequila, 10% in brandy, 6% in cocktails. What in the world is going on? Why is everybody drinking so much in March? I don't know. But then it goes on to say that the publicly traded company Constellation Brands was up 4.5%. Brown-Forman was up 4.5%. Both of these recorded above average volume growth right here. Both of them recorded above average volume growth. And then Diageo was recorded a 3.3% increase in March, which was slightly less than Brown-Forman and Constellation Brands, but is still a very, very strong increase. And it goes on. By the way, Tito's vodka was up 54%. Oh my gosh. Okay. So that was the first channel checks. The second channel checks is right here. In the same exact report, this is what I'm talking about. Now, the reason, we have three stocks that basically we can make a play on based on this particular data. One of them has already reported earnings, so unfortunately that's not a play anymore, which is Constellation Brands, right? So, I mean, if we're going to make an earnings play, Constellation earnings are already out. So that's why I'm left with two that are publicly traded. One is Diageo and one is Brown-Forman. Now, I personally like Diageo play better than Brown-Forman based on this very, very strong channel checks for particularly one simple reason, okay? And it's right here in the numbers in front of you. The delta increase from a 20 year-to-date 2017 levels and from a trailing 12 months level, the delta increase in Brown Forman was from 3.5% to 5.8%. So we're talking about 230 basis point delta increase, right, in Brown Forman. But Diageo did even better. Diageo, the swing in the delta increase in Diageo in the total volumes growth in March compared to year-to-date volume was 340 basis point, which was even better than Brown Forman. More importantly, if we're talking about spirits growing at this ridiculous rate, Diageo has the biggest market share. So the total amount of dollar impact that we're going to have, is going to go to Diageo, not so much to Brown Forman. But even though I think both of them should perform very well, should report very good earnings. So 16.8% market share versus 4.5%. Lastly, Diageo is the pure play on spirits. Brown Forman has also a very large wine business. I don't have channel checks from wine, but we do know from Constellation Brands that wine business did very, very well as well. So it's still, if you're going to go with Brown Forman, just understand it's not exactly an apple to apple comparison. Brown Forman is wine and spirits. Constellation Brand is wine, spirits, and beer, and Diageo is all spirits. All spirits. So this is the purest way to basically make a play on these strong channel checks. All right. And so that's from that. And now all of this data, this is ridiculous amount of data behind this particular file. You can go to category shipments. You can take a look at it. You can go to top 30, which of the brands basically did the best. You can dissect it in any way you like. So that's why I passed this file. Play around with it at home if you like, and you'll get some sense. But my play is Diageo. Now, on the technical side of the thing, Diageo has a beautiful looking technical view. Here's that level at 117 to 118 level. Back in July of last year, it came up to this level, rolled over. Tried again in October and rolled over big time. Then tried again in February, and now it's no longer rolling over. It has spent the last whole month consolidating basically near this 117, 116 level, and this is a small bull flag formation, and it is starting to break out. If you go to the weekly chart, you'll see what I'm talking about. Actually, go to the 5-year weekly chart. Here's the level. Let's put a line up here. Here's that level that basically that is trying to break out from here, and here you go. So this tried here, then tried here multiple times, and now it's starting to break out to this 117 to 118 level. This is a very long-term chart. Let's go even longer. Let's go to 10-year chart. You know what I'm talking about. So this is a very long-term. So this is not on anybody's radar because it has been so long. It has been so many years. The stock has just not performed. It has not done anything. I mean, if you just go back to the monthly chart, 10-year monthly chart, you'll see how long it has been before we saw any major moves in this. But I think it's coming. And I think when it does, people will notice. So I want you to be positioned into this before anybody else jump into this. Now, I'm already long common, by the way, as you all know. But on a weekly scale, if this thing breaks out from here, let's go to 5-year weekly to get a better view. If this thing breaks out from here, your first target is 120.80. So I'm going to put a price level here. 128, call it 121. 121 is your first target, which is basically this level. All right, and that's a good $4 or $5 to the upside from here. And then if it breaks out from there, it's clear coast. After that, the resistance basically start to die down. You're going to maybe face some congestion level near 125 to 130 level just naturally because this was the previous all-time high. All right, going back way back to 2013 and 2014 level. But from a volume over price standpoint, there's not a lot of congestion coming into play. We could be seeing at a stock that will basically go on to make new 52-week highs at that particular point. So now again, I'm already long common in this, and I've been long for several years because it's a nice, easy play, in many ways, and I collect dividends, and I basically also write cover calls sometimes, and sometimes sell naked puts in this one, and basically have been collecting juice from the premium for a long time. But from a momentum and from a fundamental standpoint, I think that the channel checks that I'm seeing now actually have never been stronger in the last several years I've owned the stock. So 121 is your first target, and then we'll see after that. This could be off to raises for a long time to come, for many, many months to come. On the Brown Forman side, which is not the entirely 100% pure play on spirits. It's also big wine business, which should also be doing, by the way, very well. This is a bit of a choppy chart. I have to be clear about this. This is not as clear breakout potential and whatnot. This is a little bit choppy. Nonetheless, all right, this should also post a very good quarter. All right. Now I'm trying to confirm when this company will report earnings. I mean, because nothing is showing up on my Think or Swim. This is the BFBA shares, or this is the B shares. So I'll confirm the dates when they actually report earnings, because nothing is showing up on my Think or Swim. But nonetheless, let's keep an eye on this, because we have a MACD bull cross over here. We have RSI that is basically going towards new 52-week high. Whenever the earnings come out, I expect the stock to gap higher. It's going to face some heavy volume of price resistance around 48.60 to 48.80. That will be your first target. So from a percentage basis, from here to here, it's about 6%, 5 to 6%. If it can clear this range around 49, let's call it, then it's off to race at that point, because then you're going to be looking at similar situation over here. So then what happens is then you have this long-term trend resistance on the weekly chart that's coming into play, and I think you're going to start to see this thing break out from this resistance. Here you go. Let's just put it like this. All right, so connect the dots much more closely. Here you go. So if it takes out through this 49 level, this is a massive resistance. You can see there's a volume of price right here. There's a trend resistance right here. So a lot of congestion at this 49 level. If it takes out that 49, I think you could see this a stealth rally of your 51.50 first, which would be right here, 51.50, and after that it could start to challenge basically these previous highs going all the way back to 2015. Fall of 2015. So this was making lower lows, and now it's no longer making lower lows. This made a higher low this time, and it's going to come and attack this 48 to 49 resistance, and then let's see where it goes from there. All right, so not as beautiful of a technical picture in my view, but it's still a very good constructive one. But Diageo basically looks better. So what's the play? Diageo actually reports earnings only once every 6 months. I know it sounds crazy, right? But Diageo reports earnings once every 6 months. But they also provide their what they call their shortened or their abbreviated versions of the quarterly trends, you know, periodically, once a month or once every 2 months or something. They do provide some trends. But more importantly, we get plenty of channel checks in Diageo that can give us the color like the one that we just discussed earlier. So you don't necessarily have to basically make a play for earnings in this one. So going into the option market, the play that I have over here is very simple. I want to go out to July, which is 90 days out or 85 days out in this particular case, and I want to buy straight July 120 calls for $1.75 or less. July 120 calls for $1.75 or less in Diageo, which is 85 days out. Now, I don't know when they will report earnings, because again, the last earnings report was back on January 26th. So it is possible that the next earnings release 6 months from that point will not be released until sometime in the middle of July. But like I said, there's going to be a lot of channel checks. There's going to be a lot of mid-quarter or mid-half of the year updates throughout this time, any of which could serve to be the catalyst in my view. So that's why I want to go out to July. I want to buy straight July 120 calls for $1.75 or less. On Brown-Forman, this is not where I'm recommending a trade. Okay, again, I don't know where the earnings with this one will be, but on Brown-Forman, if you want to make a play, I'd like June 45 calls in this one. The spreads are stupid wide in this one, $1.95 to $2.75. All right, these are in the money call. That's the beautiful thing about them. Think about it this way. In Brown-Forman, this is BF/B. We're talking about here. The stock is trading at 46.90. All right, so call it almost 47. And the one that I'm recommending is June 45 calls. I think you can buy these for $2.50 or less. $2.50 or less. So basically, these calls are already $2 in the money, and you're paying $2.50 for them with a delta of 0.72. and it will most likely cover next earnings cycle, which we do not have a confirmed date for. So I think that this becomes very attractive because these calls are going to move neck to neck with the stock price. They're already very high. Delta is 0.72. And I think that as the stock goes to 48 to 49 and starts attacking this resistance, these calls will double basically at that point. And then you can see if it's worth rolling these calls for an ultimate breakout from this long-term downtrend resistance, or would it be worth just taking profits at that particular time? All right. So two trades in this particular sector. One is Diageo, buy straight July 120 calls for $1.75 or less, and the next one is Brown Forman with the symbol B, BF/B, and buy straight June 45 calls for $2.50 or less. All right, those were the plays with me. So I will take it from here. Let's take some questions.
Okay, generally, Brown Forman reports within the first 10 days of June. For example, last year it was June 8th. So that's around the time frame we should be expecting.
Yeah, so this will cover it then. And these June calls should easily cover it. So they'll look very attractive if you think about this. You're paying only 50 cents extrinsic value for an in-the-money call. That's not very expensive. I mean, think about this. You're spending only 1%. You're spending only 1% of the underlying cost on extrinsic value with a very high delta of 0.72. So this becomes very attractive play for an ultimate breakout based on good data that we just discussed. Just looking at the call value, call options value versus the stock price, and you can start to make a judgment call over here. And I think they look very attractive. All right.
And to make it clear, Fahad, are you recommending both or either or? Because it sounds like for you the preference is the Diageo.
I'm recommending all these three trades. I'm recommending both of them. Just to be very, very clear, I'm recommending call options in both Diageo and Brown Forman. So go ahead, Abo, when you create the summary, you can list that very precisely in your summary for webinar. But what I'm trying to say is that from a technical standpoint, in my view, Diageo has a better technical look than Brown Forman. Diageo also has a slightly different business model because Diageo is 100% spirits and a little bit beer, right? It doesn't really have a big wine business. But Brown Forman has a big wine business and has a bigger spirit business, and Brown Forman is also mostly focused in the United States, doesn't have as much exposure to European and other markets. Nevertheless, both of them should do very, very well and should report very good earnings, all right?
Okay, excellent. All right, so here we'll start off with this question, Fahad. Question is, I already have QQQ, so the NASDAQ